Hello, YouTube. My name is Steve Bloom. My friends call me Boomer. I grew up in Kearney, New Jersey. I'm 66 years old, and I now reside for the last 30 years in Cartersville, Georgia, in between Atlanta and Chattanooga. I transferred down here with my job, Anheuser-Busch, in 1995. I spent the first 35 years of my life up in New Jersey, and now I'm the next 31 years so far here in Georgia. I wanted to start a YouTube channel, and I'm going to call it Spreading Love with Boomer because I'm tired of all the hate. I'm tired of all the negativity. And I just want to let you know I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're an independent. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're gay, straight, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. I just want to spread some love. I love you all. I love everybody. I love everybody if they love me back. And even if they don't love me back, I'll try. I will try. So let's do this. Let's spread some love. I'm tired of the AI fake stuff and the negativity. And I'm just going to talk from my heart. And I'm going to tell you some stories about what I've been through. Maybe it can help you. Maybe you'll think it's funny. I think I'm an amateur comedian. I got a good sense of humor. I'll tell you a few jokes here and there. And that's what this is going to be about. So like and subscribe if you want. If you don't, no problem. I hope I bring a little joy into your life. Okay? So let's start out by saying, I just got back from New Jersey, and my God, me and my wife had such a beautiful, wonderful time. My Aunt Peggy Taylor, turned 95 years old. God bless this woman. She lives on the second floor, still in the house she's lived for probably 70 years, and she looks fantastic. Dancing, maybe she has 7 kids, 2 passed away. The oldest was Danny. He was a firefighter and a police officer. He passed away tragically. And Susan, the second born, she passed away from cancer. So the next one was Karen. The next one is Andrew, who was my age. And then it's Janet, Margaret, and John. So she's got 5 children that are living. She had 7 total. I don't know how many grandchildren. Between 7 kids, you got to figure it's at least 20, maybe more, maybe 10 or 12 great grandchildren. But we had a great time, and we had it at the VFW on Belgrove Drive in Kearney, New Jersey. And on the right side was the party room, and on the left side is the bar. So knowing that I was going to come up, I asked all my friends from high school or anybody that was interested to show up after the party was over. The party was from 2 to 6. And at 6 o'clock, we were going to gather for a few drinks and some laughs. Well, I think about 25 people showed up. It was wonderful. We had such a great time. We took lots of pictures, lots of hugs, lots of kisses, lots of memories. And along the way, like I said, I love to meet people. I'm on the spectrum. For anybody that grew up with me, here's my admission. I was never diagnosed, but you know why I couldn't shut up? You know why I was voted most talkative in 8th grade? I have Asperger's autism. I'm on the spectrum. I'm not on the left side of the spectrum where you don't say anything and you don't talk. I'm on the right side of the spectrum where you don't shut up. I'm over there with Elon, but I don't have Elon's money. Okay, Elon Musk. I don't have his money, but I got his talking in. All right. So we documented all our pictures. The shuttle bus driver to the to the airport, to the car rental guy, the lady in the hotel, the one that cooked the food. I mean, I talked to everybody, and I was documenting it. And I just want to let you know, the theme of the trip turned out to be, there's nothing better than friends and family. And the other part of it was, brown and black people fucking rock. And they will love you back, and they will embrace you, and they will hug you, and they will love you back, unless you're an asshole. Okay? Little tip from Uncle Boomer. All right? Don't be an asshole. It's simple. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and we will erase racism in a day. In a day. Treat everybody the way you want to be treated. The golden rule. If you're a Christian, you claim to be a Christian, you claim to love the Bible and love Jesus, and I love Jesus and I love the Lord, but I'm not a person that goes to church every week. I don't have to have organized religion because I love the Lord alone. I pray to him, and he's been good to me, and I love the Lord, and I hope you do too. And if you don't, just before you die, make sure you find him, because you don't want to go down there. It gets hot down there. You want to go to heaven, see all your loved ones. So please, let's just use this channel to be kind to people and open the door for, you see a woman struggling with her packages, throw them in the car, throw them in the trunk for her. Open the door. If somebody opens the door for you, say thank you. Don't just walk in. Don't be ignorant. Be a good person. Be a good person. And that's what this channel is going to be about. So I'm just going to tell stories about my life. Like I said, I worked at Anheuser-Busch for 31 years. And recently I had some sadness come to me because 2 weeks before I went up to New Jersey, on February 12th, I went up the 26th. I had a best friend for many years that I worked on the road with at delivering beer at Anheuser-Busch, and his name was Patrick J. I think his middle name was J. Nash. He lived on Highland Avenue in Kearney, and we worked at Anheuser-Busch together. We went to high school together. He was 1 year behind me. We didn't graduate together, but we hooked up at Anheuser-Busch, and we became partners on the road delivering beer. So many stories that I'm going to tell you about life in the hood and life in the rich neighborhoods or whatever, wherever we delivered, whether it was Bergen County or Essex County or Hudson County, Newark, Patterson. We delivered beer in some tough neighborhoods and where there was a lot of crime and a lot of murder and mayhem. But you know what? Because my attitude was, there before the grace of God go I, and I treated everybody with dignity and respect, I never had a problem, ever. I think I changed a few lives along the way. And if I did, I'm so proud of myself for being like that. So Pat and I, we spent so much time together, and I was so sad because I had just talked to him and he was doing better. He had a little cancer surgery and I thought he was doing better. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, his brother Carl called and said, "Oh, Boomer, I got some bad news for you." And I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Pat's on his deathbed." And I said, "I just talked to him a little while ago. He knows I'm coming up there on the 26th. We're going to meet at the VFW. And he said, "Steve, I'm sorry to inform you that Patrick passed away." Oh, no, excuse me, not passed away. He's on his deathbed. So I said, "Well, can I talk to him?" He said, Nope, he can't even talk. I said, "Well, put the phone by his ear and let me just tell him how much I love him." And he said, No, he can't hear you. And he never put the phone by his ear. And I'm a little mad at you for that, Carl. I wish you would just put the phone by his ear. Who knows if he could hear? You don't know if he could hear. I wanted to tell him, "Pat, I love you. You were so good. And a caring, good person, just like me." And we had so many wonderful times on the road. We really did. Unbelievable. So that was a little sadness for me right there. But like I said, I'm going to tell some stories along the way, and I hope you like them. But I'm going to tell you this one story, and this is with my friend Pat Nash. Today is March 5th, 2026. Some guy, you may have heard of him, his name is Richard Kuklinski. They called him the Iceman, and he has a documentary on HBO, and he was like a guy that murdered several people. And they called him the Iceman because he used to put people in the freezer so the medical examiners couldn't determine when they died. So we're on the road delivering beer in either Jersey City or Bayonne. And I walked in and I said to the guy, "Hey, where do you want your beer?" We went out to start to bring the beer in. And I noticed this guy sitting in there. And I thought it was Chuck Wepner, the champ, the boxer that knocked Muhammad Ali down and fought Muhammad Ali, the Bayonne bleeder. Well, I thought it was him because he was a liquor salesman in Hudson County around there. And I had met him several times. I had bought him a beer here and there. The champ, I called him the champ. He never was the champ, but he was the champ in my eyes. He got in the ring with Muhammad Ali. All right? I wouldn't. He did, and he knocked him down. So I sent the guy over a beer. It looked like Chuck Wepner. So I sent him over a beer, and I was delivering. And when I got closer to him, I noticed now he's a big guy. He looks like Chuck Wepner in a dimly lit bar, but that wasn't Chuck Wepner. But the guy must have realized, he must have told him, "Hey, the Budweiser driver sent you over a beer." So he thanked me for the beer. And I said, "Oh, no problem." He said, "What's your name?" And I said, "My name is Steve, but my friends call me Boomer." And he said, "Okay, Steve." And I thought, okay, I guess we're not friends, That's okay. You just met me. I said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Richard." And I said, "What do your friends call you?" And he said, "I don't have any friends." And I thought, oh, okay. So I walked away and I started delivering the beer, and we're finishing up, delivering it. And he was taking the last sip of his beer, so I sent him over another beer. I said, "What? I'm gonna try to soften this guy up a little, I'm gonna try to, become his friend, So I sent him over another beer, and then they signed the ticket. We were ready to go. And all of a sudden, from across the room, he yelled out, "Hey, Boomer." And I turned and I said, "Yeah." He said, "My friends call me Big Richie." And I said, "Oh, man," I softened him up. I gave him a thumbs up, and I said, "Love you, brother." And I took off, and that was it. 4 months later, I'm watching the television, and they're arresting Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman, the murderer, the guy that put the people in the icebox. He killed people with spray. He killed people all kinds of different ways. He was like he worked for the mob or something and did contract killings. It was amazing. Watch the documentary, The Iceman, Richard Kuklinski. Me and my friend Pat Nash delivered beer in either Bayonne or Jersey City and ran into the Iceman. He called me Boomer and told me he was Big Richie, So for 5 minutes of my life, I was friends with Richard Kuklinski. And I know if I could have met him sooner, maybe because he had been beaten to hell by his father his whole life. And I think that's what made him mean. But maybe I'd have been in the freezer with the other guy, but maybe I could have, had a little light in his life, But that's the kind of stories I want to tell you, and that's why I started this channel. And before I go, I'm just going to tell you one more story with my friend Pat. We used to go over the bridge. We lived about 10 blocks away from each other, and I would drive to work one week, we carpool. He would drive to work next week in his car. I had just gotten a new 1984 BMW 318i. I won a picket pool at Budweiser. It was based on the New Jersey Lottery 3, pick 3, and I had the number 980, which was my license plate number, 980 VEK. And I had a 1984 BMW, at that time I had the 1981 Chrysler LeBaron. It was a piece of shit. Shame on you, Chrysler. That was a piece of shit. So, 50 guys, and then the guy that ran the pool, Mike Petronella, a little Italian guy, he used to clean the cafeteria. He had a great job. His job was to make sure the cafeteria was clean and everybody had beer to drink. You could drink on the job in 1979 at Anheuser-Busch before the drunk driving laws. You could go into work an hour early, drink, work all day, 4 15-minute breaks and a 20-minute lunch, drink on every single break, stay after work for an hour, drink some more, and then they'd kick you out. This was people drinking all day long, but nobody was drunk. Everybody did their job. No absenteeism. If you don't come to work, you can't get the free beer, right? So 50 guys, $5 a week, $250. Mike got a free ride for collecting the money from 50 guys, trying to chase 50 guys down. Tough, right? And he got 10%. So the pool went 22 weeks without being hit. It got up to $5,500. My sister Nancy was pregnant with her first son, Kevin, and she was going to make me the godfather. So I ran to Sears and I got all kinds of baby clothes, and I might even got a little baseball mitt. I mean, I was so excited that my sister was having a baby and I was going to be an uncle and I was going to be a godfather. So I guess God thought, you know what, Boomer? That was very nice. I spent about $200. Yeah, but at that time, that was a lot of money. So come to find out, my mother calls me and says, "Hey, Steve," I was at my sister's house giving her all the stuff. "Hey, Steve, did anybody hit the picket pool at Budweiser yet?" I said, "No, Ma, why?" She goes, "You just hit." I said, "What?" She goes, 980 just came out in the picket. I said, "Man, that's great. $4,950, right?" So I go to work and I bring donuts for everybody and, whatever. And Mike's waiting for me. 48, 49, 50, $4,950. Mike got 10% for collecting the pool, $550. $25 a week he made for running down 50 guys for $5. I sure wouldn't want that job. It was worth $25 a week to me. I was glad to give him that $550. So instead of putting the money in Apple stock, and right now I'd be a millionaire living in a mansion, I was a young kid, what a jerk. I went out and bought a 1984 BMW 318i. It was beautiful. It was a white, black interior. I love it. 5-speed, but it was a manual transmission. So, I could drive a manual, no problem. It was great. So not long after, like a month later, I pick up my friend Pat, and we're coming over the bridge, and in Newark right there, there was a cobblestone street, and it was like Broadway and Broad Street, and there was a Roy Rogers on the corner, and the prostitutes would be out there every morning, all over the place, mostly black, Puerto Rican, Spanish, prostitutes. So we go over one morning, and this is, during the AIDS epidemic, and, crack. It was a rough time, So the girls would always try to get us to roll our window down and take a date. And me and Pat were like, no, we're going to work, no problem. Well, the one morning we go over the bridge, and there's this girl standing there, obviously half Asian and half black. And she was gorgeous. I mean, gorgeous. So she gives me the, hey, roll the window down. So I roll the window down. She goes, hey, you boys going out? And I said, no. I said, we're going to work. And she smelled inside the car, and she said, oh my God, what is that smell? And I said, oh, that's the best coffee you're ever going to drink in your life. And she said, where do you get that? And I said, over on Kearny Avenue in Kearny, the Sip and Dunk. We used to stop every morning, me and Pat, and we'd get a cup of coffee. He would get a donut, and I would get a buttered roll. And sometimes I would run into my Uncle Dan, who was the guy that wasn't at my aunt's party because he had passed away, and he was there and responsible for all those tailors being there. He would be in there, and he'd go, hey, Stevie, good morning, And I love seeing my Uncle Dan. I loved him so much. He was a great guy. He was a Navy veteran, World War II. Saw some things, didn't want to talk about it, but he was a hero. And he served his country. After he left the Navy, he was a career firefighter, retired as a firefighter. And he was an amazing guy. And if you ever want to know what a patriot is, that was Uncle Dan. That's a true patriot, not what they're throwing around these days. That was a true patriot. So I told her about the coffee, and she said, oh my God, that smells so good. I said, I'll tell you what, we come over the bridge every morning at 6:30. Not 6:40, not 6:35, not 6:32. At 6:30, we come over this bridge every morning. And tomorrow, if you're out here, I'll bring you a cup of coffee. She said, really? I said, of course. Be glad to. So the next morning, go get the coffees. I get 3 coffees instead of 2. Pat gets his. I get mine. Get one for China. Her name was China. She said her name was China. She was half I looked at her and I said, why do they call you China? You're not Chinese. You're Vietnamese. And she looked at me and she said, how the hell did you know? And I said, I could just tell. I'm just pretty good at guessing where people are from. I said, was your father a soldier in Vietnam? And you're half black and half Vietnamese? And she said, man, you are spot on. How the hell did you know? I said, well, the time frame fits, it would be about 66 when you were born, right? She said, I was born in 65. I said, oh my God, or no. She said born in 67. So I guess her father, knocked up the mother in 66. She was born in 67. She was only like 17 or 18 years old. She was young. So next morning I come over the bridge, and who's sitting out there waiting for coffee? China. So I gave her the coffee, and I bought her a butter roll. I gave her the continental treatment. I gave her the treatment. And she said, thank you. And I said, hey, see you tomorrow. Remember, 6:30. No problem. So I can imagine that she's given head to some guy in a car somewhere, and it's like 6:25, and she's yelling, let's go. Let's go. Get shit moving, man. I got to get out of here. I can just imagine. Well, every day at 6:30, China would be standing there, and I'd give her a coffee and a butter roll. So we come over one day, and I got the coffee and a butter roll. It's a Monday. She hands me $20. I said, what are you doing? She goes, coffee's on me this week. I never had anybody treat me the way you treat me. And I said, well, that's sad because you deserve it. You're a beautiful girl, and it hurts me that you're out here, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's your life. And she wasn't a drug addict. She was just making money. So I don't know. So here's a prostitute, having sex acts with people. And she gives me $20 to buy the coffee for the week. I didn't want to take it, but she forced me. I had to take it. She's like insistent. I said, okay, no problem. So she paid for the coffee and the butter roll for a week. So one day we come over the bridge, and all the black girls are gone. And they've been replaced by white girls. Beautiful, beautiful white girls. I said to Pat, Pat, they're cops. He said, what do you mean? I said, the hair on the back of my neck just stood up. I said, they're cops. I had like a street sense, I could sense danger. So this beautiful white lady, prostitute, tells me to put the window down. I say, hello? can I help you? And she said, yeah, you boys going out? And I said, no, officer, I'm looking for China. She said, oh, you know what this is about, huh? I said, obviously, you're cops, because there's no way them girls are going to give you girls the street. You know what I mean? I said, please tell me you didn't arrest my friend China. She said, no, all the prostitutes are in a paddy wagon over in the Roy Rogers parking lot. After this operation is over, they're going to let them go. But what they are doing is they are arresting the Johns and seizing their vehicles. I took that $4,950. Then, like the next week, and I went to Hoffman BMW in Nutley, New Jersey, and I bought the BMW, $5,000 down, and I had 36 payments. Now, at this time, when I'm over there with the cop, I still got 35 more payments to go. If I would have said, sure, officer, how much, sure, miss, how much, my car would have been seized, and I would have had 35 more payments to go and still had to go get another car. So thank you, Lord, for letting the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I mean, I wasn't into prostitutes anyway, but it saved me a lot of trouble, right? So that's the story of my friend China. We went, so now we go over the bridge one day, and China's not there. So we go over the bridge the next day. China's not there. We did it for about a week. I kept, I'll just drink an extra cup of coffee and eat another butter roll, no problem. She never came back. So China, I hope nothing nefarious came of you. I hope you just made enough money I wish you would have at least said, goodbye. So I think you would have had that courtesy, because you had a lot of class. You could have class and be a prostitute, okay? And I don't judge people. I told you in the beginning of this video, I love everybody. I don't care if you're a prostitute. I don't care if you're 600 pounds. I don't care if you're 100 pounds. I don't care if your ears are huge, if your nose, I don't care. I don't care what you look like. I told you, I love you all. And I want this channel to be positive. I don't want no trolls coming on here and giving us some negative crap, because that's what I'm about. So China, if you're still alive and you see this video somehow, I just want you to know that, I hope I touched your heart. I know I did, but you touched mine as well. You were my friend, and I hope that some good things happen. I hope you met some guy that said, get out of this, get in this car right now. We're getting married and we're flying to Aruba. I hope that's what happened to you, okay? Because you deserved it. You were a class act, and I loved you very much, China. And that's the first episode of Life with Boomer. I'm going to try to spread some more love. Like I said, like and subscribe. If anybody does subscribe and I do come into some money with this channel, I want you to know I'm going to buy some food and take it down to the shelter. I'm going to help people out. I'm not on here. I'm okay. I'm on a fixed income, but I pay my bills. We eat out every day, me and my wife. I have a car that runs and it's paid for, and I have a house that's paid for, and I'm okay. I'm doing okay. So any money that comes in is going out. Okay? I love you all. Please follow me. You don't have to like and subscribe, but just follow me, please, because I'm going to tell you some good stories. All right? Love you.